de munim dada no emremu no ye ka se obi aye innocent kopem se court no ebe ka se nipa kro no di fa na odi bem ena mrakro na ema aban ho kwan ma otimi so obi tedua mu se ya chew no sa mrakro na nso ma ho kwan se ye ma obi o ne kofie na nsiesie bi wo ho a ye ne aban na ye enti no na ye ba court no nyame ncha de ya ma ne bill a ye se
trying to hold on to water. You plunge your hands into a fast-moving river, you cuck them together, and you just squeeze them shut.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. You want to capture it, you want to keep it in one single controllable place. But it always, inevitably, finds a way to slip through the cracks of your fingers.
It's impossible.
Totally impossible. And the tighter the grip you apply, the more elusive that water becomes. And usually, when we think of international borders, we picture them as, impenetrable, rigid walls.
Oh, absolutely.
We think of passports, customs agents, heavy steel gates, armed checkpoints. We assume that if a major global superpower wants to reach across those lines and just pull someone back, it just does.
You'd think so, yeah. That's the assumption.
But today, for all of you joining us on this deep dive, we are looking at a single, incredibly dense stack of notes we've gathered. It's a major high-profile legal update out of Ghana regarding a figure named Abu Trica.
And it really flips that whole assumption on its head.
It really does. This stack of notes shows us just how porous those international walls can actually be when the right legal levers are pulled.
Exactly.
We are exploring a blockbuster bail decision handed down today by the Accra High Court, the really severe charges involved in this case, and how a single local court ruling just threw a massive screeching wrench into an international U.S. extradition effort.
It's a wild sequence of events.
It is wild. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because a seemingly simple legal update out of Ghana actually contains a whole geopolitical thriller's worth of tension.
It really does. And, to fully grasp the gravity of this court ruling, we have to start with the foundation.
Right, the actual charges.
Exactly. The notes make it very clear what prompted the involvement of two different sovereign nations in the first place. We have to look at the specific nature of the allegations. So, Abu Trica is facing charges for romance scams and money laundering.
Okay, so romance scams, I understand that part. You cultivate a fake relationship online, you exploit someone's emotional vulnerability, and you trick them into willingly sending you money.
Right, yeah.
It's essentially emotional identity theft, right?
Yeah.
But why introduce money laundering?
Well, that's where it gets complicated.
Because, doesn't opening fake businesses and moving money around through complex banking networks just create a massive paper trail for international investigators to follow?
You would think so?
Yeah, it just seems totally counterintuitive to draw attention to yourself if you've already secured the cash.
I get why it looks that way. But a romance scam is highly effective at generating revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it creates a profound logistical nightmare for the perpetrator.
How so?
Because the funds generated by that digital deception they're effectively radioactive.
Radioactive. I like that.
Yeah, because in the modern financial system, money is rarely, physical cash handed over in a briefcase. It is data.
Right. It's ones and zeros on a screen.
Exactly. It leaves a permanent, mathematically traceable footprint. If you extract millions of dollars from victims across the globe, that wealth suddenly appearing in your personal bank account triggers immediate automated alarms.
Oh, right. It's like stealing a world-famous painting.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. You might successfully get it out of the museum, but you can't exactly hang it in your living room or sell it at a local pawn shop without the authorities instantly recognizing it. The asset itself is the evidence.
The asset becomes a huge liability. You cannot invest it, you cannot buy real estate with it, and you cannot even easily withdraw it.
Wow. Okay, so that makes sense.
And this is why money laundering enters the equation, not as some optional side venture to make extra cash, but as a mandatory survival mechanism for the illicit operation.
They literally have to do it.
They have to. Money laundering is the deliberate, highly complex attempt to legitimize that radioactive money. It involves passing the illicit funds through a labyrinth of accounts, shell companies, or assets to obscure the true origin.
So you're trying to break the chain of custody.
Precisely.
You want to insert so many convoluted steps between the victim clicking transfer and the money landing in your pocket that investigators simply, they just lose the thread.
Right. And when you pair these two specific charges together, romance scams and money laundering, you are looking at allegations of a complete end-to-end illicit financial ecosystem.
An ecosystem.
Yeah. The scam operates as the revenue engine, pulling in the capital, and the laundering operates as the vital filtration system, attempting to wash the data so the money can actually be spent in the real world.
That dual nature is just fascinating to me. I mean, you have the romance scam, which is deeply intimate, it's psychological, and it targets individual human frailty.
Very personal.
Very personal.
Yeah.
And then sitting right next to it in the exact same charging document, you have money laundering, which is cold, it's corporate, and it relies on exploiting vast international banking algorithms.
Yeah, the complexity of orchestrating both ends of that spectrum is exactly what elevates a case from just a localized fraud investigation to a high-profile international incident.
Because it crosses so many borders.
Exactly. These are operations that inherently rely on moving capital across multiple global jurisdictions to confuse the authorities. And because the sums of money in these types of coordinated operations can be just staggering, the legal response has to be equally formidable.
Okay, so this brings up a huge question for me. If the entire goal of this illicit ecosystem is to make the money invisible and borderless, how does a physical courtroom in Accra actually manage to reel a guy like this in?
Right, how do you anchor them?
Yeah. This is where the story shifts from the alleged digital crimes to the actual physical courtroom drama. Because the Accra High Court handed down a decision today, and it is a massive development based on our notes.
Huge development.
The court granted Abu Trica bail in the staggering sum of $30 million. Let me just pause on that number for a second. $30 million.
It's an astronomical figure.
It is. My immediate instinct is to view that as a massive fine. I mean, did he just get slapped with a penalty before a trial even started?
I'm glad you brought that up because it is vital to distinguish between a fine and bail, especially when you're dealing with numbers this large.
Okay, walk me through the difference.
So, a fine is a penalty imposed after a formal conviction. It is the punitive price of a crime. Bail, on the other hand, operates entirely under the presumption of innocence.
Huh? Well,
So the Accra High Court is not punishing Abu Trica with this $30 million. They are demanding a guarantee.
oh, I see. It's like renting a terribly expensive piece of construction equipment.
Yeah, exactly like that.
You haven't broken the equipment, but the rental company knows you could. So they demand this gigantic cash deposit before you even leave the lot.
Right.
If you bring the equipment back unharmed, you get the deposit back. If you vanish, they keep the money.
That's the perfect analogy. When a court evaluates a defendant facing charges that involve potentially massive, globally distributed financial resources, they recognize an extreme risk of flight.
Because they have the means to just leave.
Exactly. If someone allegedly has access to millions of laundered dollars in international connections, what is stopping them from simply disappearing across a border to avoid facing trial?
Nothing, really.
Right. So the court's answer is to set the bail at a threshold so high, so financially paralyzing, that fleeing becomes the less desirable option. The $30 million is a financial anchor. It's engineered to keep him physically present within the jurisdiction of Ghana.
But the court didn't just rely on the financial anchor.
No, they didn't.
The notes highlight another condition that feels incredibly significant here. The court mandated that 2 sureties must be provided before his release.
Yeah, that's the cooker.
Let's really pause here. Because asking someone to co-sign a lease on an apartment is difficult enough.
Oh, I know. It's the worst.
Asking a friend or a family member to take on a small loan for you is a conversation most people absolutely dread. So how does the conversation even go when you need someone to act as human collateral for a $30 million bail in an international money laundering case?
It's a massive ask. The psychology of a surety requirement is really profound.
What exactly is a surety in this context?
Well, a surety is an individual who steps forward and legally binds themselves to the behavior of the accused.
Wow.
The court is essentially communicating that a financial deposit alone is insufficient. They require social and personal leverage.
They want skin in the game.
Exactly. The court demands individuals who will tell the state, I promise you this person will not flee, and if they do, you can hold me accountable.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If you are dealing with allegations of sophisticated international money laundering, couldn't the accused simply find 2 accomplices?
You mean just pay them off?
Yeah. Couldn't you just pay 2 members of the illicit network to show up in court, sign the paperwork, and act as fake guarantees?
It's a logical question, but courts anticipate that exact scenario. The process of becoming a surety in a high-profile case is not merely, signing a document and walking away.
Right.
The court actively scrutinizes the individual stepping forward. They must demonstrate that they possess the independent means to cover the bail amount, or at least a significant portion of it, if the accused flees.
So they have to show their own bank accounts.
Yes. And more importantly, they must prove that their wealth is legitimate, which is an incredibly high bar in a case fundamentally centered around allegations of hiding dirty money.
So you can't just have an associate walk into the Accra High Court with a suitcase full of unexplained cash.
Definitely not.
The court will demand to know where that associate got the money, effectively turning the surety process into its own mini-financial investigation.
That's exactly what happens. They're looking for established, verifiable members of the community who have genuine assets to lose.
Like houses or businesses.
Real estate, legitimate businesses, verifiable banking histories. The court forces the accused to find individuals with massive personal and financial capital who are willing to risk their own ruin on the promise that the accused will show up for trial.
That's intense.
It weaponizes the accused's social network against their flight risk.
The contrast there is just striking to me. We spent the first half of this deep dive talking about digital romance scams, and electronic money laundering crimes that feel so ethereal.
Right, they happen in the cloud.
Yeah, they happen through screens, servers, invisible wire transfers. But the court's response is deeply, intensely physical.
Very physical.
You must provide 30 million CD, and you must physically produce 2 human beings who will stand in a courtroom, open at their own financial lives to intense scrutiny, and vouch for you, all before the doors of the facility even unlock.
It's a stark contrast.
It yanks this digital, borderless crime down into harsh geographic reality.
And that physical grounding leads directly to the most consequential part of our source notes.
Which is what?
Well, by instituting these massive physical requirements to remain present and accounted for within Ghana, the Accra High Court didn't just determine whether Abu Trica sleeps in a jail cell or at home.
Right.
They actively blocked the machinery of a foreign superpower.
Okay, this is the part that completely changes the scale of the story.
Huh.
The notes explicitly state that this ruling has saved Abu Trica from being extradited to the USA for trial. And I'm quoting here, at least for now.
Yes.
At least for now.
What does for now mean in this context? It feels like surviving a sudden death overtime round in a playoff game.
That's a good way to look at it.
You haven't won the championship. You haven't proven you were the better team. You just survived the period. You get to keep breathing, but the threat is still right there on the ice with you.
Very true.
And beyond that, why is the United States involved at all?
So extradition is the ultimate legal tug of war between two sovereign systems.
Okay.
It is the formal diplomatic process where one nation formally requests the physical transfer of a suspected criminal from the territory of another nation.
Right, moving them across borders.
Exactly. The United States asserts jurisdiction in cases like this, typically because the alleged romance scams targeted U.S. citizens, or because the money laundering utilized the U.S. banking system. Oh, got it. So the U.S. feels they were the victims.
Yes. They want the defendant transferred to their soil to stand trial within their borders under their laws.
It's wild to think about. The U.S. has global reach, intricate international treaties, massive diplomatic resources.
Enormous resources.
But because one local judge in Accra slammed a gavel and said, nope, he owes us 30 million CD and 2 human guarantees first, that entire superpower machinery just grinds to a halt.
It does.
How does local bail supersede an international extradition request?
It comes down to the mechanics of active jurisdiction.
Active jurisdiction, okay.
Right. When the Accra High Court grants bail and imposes strict localized conditions, they are firmly establishing their own immediate legal authority over the individual.
Because he has to stay there.
Exactly. The bail conditions explicitly demand the defendant's ongoing physical presence in Ghana to participate in their ongoing legal process.
So you can't comply with a Ghanaian court order to remain in the country and check in with local authorities if you are, sitting in a federal holding cell in New York.
Exactly. The two demands are mutually exclusive.
Wow.
A sovereign nation will generally not allow a foreign power to pluck a defendant out of their country when their own high court has just instituted a massive $30 million mechanism to keep them there.
That makes total sense.
The local procedural ruling acts as a superseding force. It prioritizes the domestic legal process over the international diplomatic request.
That perfectly contextualizes the phrase, at least for now.
Yeah.
The United States' desire to put him on trial hasn't vanished. The underlying charges in the U.S. haven't been dropped.
Not at all.
Their intent to prosecute is still very much alive. But the physical execution of that intent, literally putting a human being on an airplane and moving them across the Atlantic Ocean, has been completely stalled by a local judge's gavel in Accra.
The legal victory for Abu Trica is very real, as he avoids immediate transfer to a foreign justice system.
But it's temporary.
Yeah, it is fundamentally fragile. It exists entirely in the suspended animation created by that phrase, "for now." The diplomatic tug-of-war is merely paused, with the rope still pulled taut between two sovereign nations.
The source notes mention that this development has sparked intense reactions, and that many are closely watching what happens next in this high-profile case.
And understandably so.
Yeah, I imagine it's not just legal scholars paying attention. It is a massive spectacle of sovereignty. People are watching a live stress test to see which system will ultimately win out.
Definitely.
Will the local conditions and human sureties in Ghana hold the line indefinitely, or will the international diplomatic pull of the USA eventually break through that local jurisdiction?
The public reaction is driven by the inherent drama of an unresolved tension.
It's like a cliffhanger.
Exactly. When you combine allegations of global deception, millions in illicit funds, staggering bail amounts, human collateral, and two sovereign nations vying for control over one single individual, it becomes a major focal point.
Oh, absolutely.
It really exposes the seams in the global justice system.
Okay, let's pull all of these threads together, because we've covered a lot of dense ground today based on this one stack of notes.
We really have.
To summarize the core of what we've unpacked, we're looking at a monumental GH30 million bail decision by the Accra High Court, complete with the strict requirement of two vetted human sureties.
Right.
And this highly localized legal maneuver in Ghana has successfully blocked temporarily a massive effort by the United States to extradite Abu Trica to face international charges of romance scams and money laundering. He has avoided the international transfer, but only at least for now.
The architecture of the situation really reveals how local friction can slow down global momentum.
That's a great way to frame it, and bringing it back to you listening right now. Why should you care about the specifics of a bail hearing in Accra? Why does this matter beyond the specific individuals named in these documents?
It's a fair question to ask.
It matters because it perfectly illustrates a hidden truth about our highly connected, globalized world. We tend to think that international law is this unstoppable top-down force that sweeps across the globe without resistance.
Right, like an inevitability.
Yeah, but this case proves that localized procedural court decisions can act as a giant pause button on complex international legal machinery. A local judge demanding a cash deposit and two human signatures can effectively stall the geopolitical will of a superpower.
And as you process the details of this legal standoff, consider the profound paradox of modern crime versus modern law.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the crimes we've discussed today, digital romance scams and electronic money laundering, they are inherently borderless.
Here.
With a few keystrokes, illicit intent and stolen capital can instantly cross oceans. It effortlessly bypasses customs checkpoints, passports, and physical walls. The crime moves at the speed of light.
Yeah.
But the moment the justice system attempts to respond, the moment authorities try to move a single physical human being across those exact same borders to face trial.
It hits a wall.
Exactly. The system is suddenly forced to navigate a massive, painfully slow, physically grounded legal labyrinth.
Wow. It really is like trying to hold onto water in a fast-moving river. The crime slips through the digital cracks instantly, but when you try to grasp the perpetrator with the rigid hands of international law, the tighter you squeeze, the more complex the friction becomes.
That's exactly it.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this helped untangle the incredibly complex dynamics hiding behind a seemingly straightforward legal update. Keep exploring the sources, keep questioning how these invisible systems govern our physical world, and we'll catch you next time.